the differences between an interface and an abstract class. This is the code from the last lesson. On this side, main, the sample class, and our abstract class. This is from the previous lesson about the interfaces, the sample class from lesson 35, an interface, and the main from lesson 35. Now, there are a few differences between an interface and a class. It's one of the most common interview questions. It's very, very common, so you must at least remember most of them. A very obvious one is, check this out, you can only extend the class by one abstract class. But a class can implement multiple interfaces. We have two, calc and say stuff, but here we can only use one abstract class. Okay, this is a cheat sheet I prepared. Interface support multiple implementation. Abstract class does not support multiple instances. What I said in simpler terms. One implementation, two implementations. Okay, interface does not contain data member. Abstract class contains data members, which in short means variables or attributes. Let's say int x public int x. Let's go to the main and see if it works. If you remember, s extends the abstract class. Here we have x as a member, how did I call it? A data member, whatever. And if you take this one and you try to use it in an interface with the same name, say stuff interface, let's see what happens. An error. The blank final field x may not have been initialized. Well, we can't use it here. An interface can have this final. This is not a variable, it's a constant. A variable can be changed, a constant can be changed. I'll have to make a whole lesson about constants, but that's basically it. X equals 0, it will only be 0. X is 0 and only 0, can't be changed. But you can't do this. You can't have a variable. Only constants. It's still a constant. It's not an actual attribute. Let's see. In the main, let's try to do stuff with it. s.x equals 3. You get an error. The final field says stuff.x cannot be assigned. Because it's a final, it's not a variable, it's a constant. Or final in Java. Even if we don't write final, it still thinks it's final. So you can't have data members or variables or attributes in an interface, but you can have them in an abstract class. Let me just add a comment there so you won't get mixed up when you see it. Oh. Where is that comment? Here it is. Okay. Let's see. Next. Interface does not contain constructors. Abstract class contain constructors. Let's see. Let's be lazy and add a constructor like this. Constructor using fields. Yeah. Yeah, we have a constructor. Let's put it below the field. And also tell you it's lesson 37. So yeah, here we have a constructor. Let's do it the way I like it. Yeah, so we will have a constructor that assigns stuff to x. We will have an error here. because it does not implement the constructor. So let's get rid of this. Just say x will be 1 at the start. Now it's okay. So now we have a default constructor. Let's try and put a constructor in an interface. Let's delete the x. Let's see what it says. Return type for method is missing. It doesn't even consider it a constructor. Funny. Let's say void. It thinks it's a method. Now it needs a default too. So yeah, you can't have constructors in an interface, but you can't have a constructor. But you can have a constructor in an abstract class, but not in an interface. Next. An interface contains only incomplete members, signature members. An abstract class contains both incomplete abstract and complete member. Member means a method. This is what is considered an incomplete member because it doesn't have a body, curly brackets, you know, this thing. And they say here both incomplete abstract. Yep, it's incomplete and abstract. And this one is actually a member of say something class. Yeah, you can I already wrote it, you know, I override it and I use the super say, you know, this super say is actually this. So in the child class of say something, I tell it use the original say and say blah again. Let's say blah 2. So it will say blah and blah 2. So yeah, you can do this inside of an abstract method. This is not a default method, unlike in an interface where it's a default. You cannot use, let's say, the method say here in the sample from lesson 35 about interfaces, and then tell it use the superclass of say, which is this. This is a default class, and here it's an actual. Here in the abstract class of say something, this is an actual member of the class. It's an actual method of the class, which can be inherited and also used with the keyword super to override it. But this cannot be done with an interface. So that's what this one is all about. An interface cannot have access modifiers by default. Everything is assumed as public. An abstract class can contain access modifiers for the subs, functions, and properties. In layman terms, visibility. Let's say private. Error. Illegal modifier for the interface method something. Only public, abstract, default, static, etc. are permitted. Basically, it has to be public. But let's go to the abstract say something, and let's say I want this private. No error. No, there is an error. Hey, something can only set visibility modifier to public or protected. Okay, protected. Does the same thing as private, just for it can only be used in its child classes, and it cannot be initialized, so it makes sense. It's not private. Let's try private here. Yeah, it does allow for member methods to be private. Nice. It's very logical. It can only be protected because this class cannot be initialized as it's an abstract class, but its children may have access to something, but not outside of the class. Okay, no problem. So that's basically it. You can have visibility, multiple visibility types like protected, private, and all that with an abstract class, but with an interface apparently it's not allowed. Let's try private. Here, nope, an error. Now, the last thing, member of interface cannot be static. Only complete member of abstract class can be static, meaning this can't be static. You see an error. Method requires body, blah blah blah. This cannot be public. Default voids say nope. And as you can see, we had an error. And it says only complete members. These are not complete members. They are partials. How did they call it? Incomplete abstract members. So they cannot be static. Nope. But say, because it's a full member, it has a body, it has an execute, or curly brackets, I can put the keyword static and make it a global variable. After I declare it's public, static, void. And yeah, this should be enough for anyone interviewing you and asking you what are the differences between interface and abstract class. Yeah, it's mostly these. That's kind of it for this lesson. I have nothing to add. These are just simple rules. That's it.